Okay, so this video is going to be useful to anyone that is pulling the dryer back or forward and or cleaning out the lint from the duct tubing that goes outside. So today is April 7th, 2026, I believe. The way it's currently set up, do not pull the dryer forward first. It's the way it's screwed in. You've got to go around to the furnace room. So I want to come over this way, and so first off, you'd want to loosen this hose clamp, and then there's two screws. You can't really see them, but trust me, there's two screws. I think there's one hiding like underneath this hose clamp, and then I can feel another one like over here, and those two need to be removed, and then it'll loosen this, and then the dryer can be pulled forward. So we can see from the other side that this is one piece going into the dryer. The depth perception is deceiving here. This is probably about 8 inches long, and on that end there's also a hose clamp there, and then there's a screw there to remove, and there's also another screw down here. It's not really going to focus, but there's two screws and a hose clamp on each of these connections. And then if someone was trying to get inside the dryer as well to clean things out, the permanent connection that came with the dryer, there's one more screw inside of there. If that's removed, then there's this tube that can come out, and then you can get a vacuum inside the bottom of the dryer to clean out. I installed this board up here, and this is aluminum tape that I got to put on there. I just replaced this hose, put up this board, and secured this just today. So then coming up here, it's attached there, and this is an 8-foot hose, by the way. There was previously a 5-foot hose here, and it was stretched to the max, so I increased that to an 8-foot. Okay, so a step stool there is really useful. Fair warning, I learned that, like, initially I had a chair sitting on the back side of there, and the leg of the ladder on one side or the other tried to collapse and make me fall a couple times. So get everything else out of the way, make sure the legs are stable. There might even be a locking mechanism somewhere I missed down there. Make sure that's locked in place properly though. And at least for my height, I'm 6'6". I've found in the past that either standing on the ground or on a chair is the wrong height. So coming up here, I'm going to back up a little bit. So right here, I added some aluminum tape onto this connection as well, and that would have to be removed. Leave this alone. Well, if you were taking this apart to clean, you would, for cleaning, you'd want to remove what down there, what I was talking about. Leave this on. I suppose you could take it off. There's no reason to. I was fine with leaving that on. It's possible that this could stay together, because if you use a long brush, I had a maximum of 2 poles attached, or like the one pole that came with it, and then I only screwed on one additional connection. And these hoses are pretty cheap to replace in between. But coming up here again, this is where it might get a little bit tricky if you have if you can't reach. So I tried to improve this. This was a problem before, so depth perception looks a little bit off here, but For me being 6'6", that's my arm reaching all the way back. Let's see if I can get that to focus again. I'm just going to get my arm out of here. So there's a hose clamp on there. That hose clamp isn't really doing a whole lot. It probably doesn't need to be there. That aluminum tape I put on there, that would peel off from the, I'd reach up here and just peel it down this way, out of the way. And then you can't see, but there's a screw somewhere. There's a screw right underneath where my finger is. That would have to be removed with a number 2. It's a number 2 Phillips. And then this would just move out of here. And then this tube here is what goes in a straight line outside that way. And it's pretty long because it has to go through the laundry room first before it goes outside. So I'm going to say that that's probably about 8 feet to the outside. And previously, this tube up here was sitting in a position that it was pushing on the end of this to help keep it in there because it was really not staying secure. But that one screw I added underneath the aluminum tape is really holding it in a lot better than before. Before I started, there was a ton of lint up in here. It was pretty much like up to the top of these 2x2s or whatever you call those. 1.5 by 1.5s maybe. Okay. Let's see. So make sure to wear a dust mask for the whole process. It gets very, very dusty. The tools I used, I have had a shop vac with an extension cord, and so I'd cleaned out all the lint just yesterday, and so I got an impact with a number 2 bit, and somewhere around here there's an extension. There we go. I used that guy inside of there as well, and I only used this because I installed more screws to secure things, because previously the connections down there would come loose. There was lint in behind the dryer, and then on the floor in here I also cut a hole in the drywall a little bit larger there, so it's easier to get your hands in there and move around. And the aluminum tape was really important. I may have to come back later and add aluminum tape down here, but I don't think that's going to be a problem anymore. Before, it was just so easy. If someone was walking by and they just bumped this just a tiny bit, it would cause the connections to come off loose from either here or back behind the dryer. And now it's in there solid. Nobody's going to be able to walk by and bump that. Hopefully that's not too much of a curvature that lint will get trapped at that point. We'll see. But I'm probably gonna post a piece of paper there with a QR code for someone to scan for this job. So now, if I'm going outside, by the way, the brush that I used is right over here. This long box, it's a 2-inch pipe brush, and so I attached one additional hose to there, so it's probably like, I don't know, 10, 12 feet long. And if I'm going outside, on the deck, there's this cover I have removed. There's a ton of lint down here before I started. And this cover here has these flaps that open up. And before we didn't have one of those on there. There's actually a a pine squirrel that was stuffing pine cones in there all the way down to they were actually all the way inside of the bottom of the dryer. There's currently 3 screws in place there. If you get the impact with it, an extension on there, it's super easy to reach. There's 1, 2, and 3, and a screw can't go in there because, or not easily, because of this metal plate. And that's pretty much a wrap.